Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, now we're talking about leadership and governance. Yeah, not that we didn't talk a little bit about it previously, but now we're joined by Pastor Sam Adeyemi. Yes, we know he's a pastor of a church, but today he's a leadership consultant on the program. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you so much.
Well, you've held several talks about leadership, governance, success in everything that we find ourselves. Well, today in this country, we are at a point wherein people are just looking to the leadership saying, well, this is what they expect, but what they see, not exactly the same thing. And so people could get a little agitated, but the parties, different ones are saying, look, just calm down, give us a little time. But what's your impression of how all of this is playing out in terms of our expectation and what we see?
Well, I think generally after the last elections, Nigerians developed very high hopes, and I do pray that the hopes will be realized. The events, of course, are giving us a little bit of concern, but I think sometimes that when we try to resolve Nigeria's issues, we cut leaves. We don't dig up the roots. I think the issues are deeper, especially leadership issues. I think they're deeper than we think. I read the book, The State of Africa by Martin Meredith. Martin Meredith is a journalist, historian, and he just chronicled African countries for 50 years, from the point of independence till 5 decades later. I was amazed. I wasn't born by the time Nigeria got her independence or some other African countries, but seeing what the issues were then in the late 50s and early 60s, and seeing what the issues are now, they're exactly the same problems. And that's frustrating for me. And again, it's common all through Africa, which tells us that we're dealing with cultural problems. I ask the average Nigerian, what is leadership? And the summary of what I hear is, it's when someone occupies a position. And the conversation on leadership has moved on from there worldwide a long time ago. A position does not make you a leader. That's what people realize now. It only gives you the opportunity to lead. Leadership is simply the ability to influence a group of people to achieve goals. Now, that means that leadership happens at all levels. So we're still tied to the point where the average Nigerian, when you say our leaders, the only thing we think about are people in government.
So that's a challenge. Our impression, our mindset, understanding of what leadership is.
Exactly. So, but it's shifted from there. When you get the real definition of leadership, you realize it happens at all levels. So, if we're not happy with what people are doing in government, they didn't begin to do those things today. Leadership just gives you the opportunity to show your values and your vision, your character, your competence, your skills. But it started from somewhere. Leadership is going on in our homes. Leadership is happening in the schools. Leadership is happening in every organization going on, whether religious, private, or public. And those are the opportunities you have to develop your character, to develop leadership skills, ability to mobilize people. So it's a cultural problem. So you find out we recycle people, we move a group of people out, we move a new group of people in, the problems remain the same.
Dr. Adeyemi,
Okay.
you said most times when we're talking about leadership in Nigeria or Nigeria's issues, we're cutting leaves. We're not digging at the roots. And you've seemed to now define the root being culture. What would you say are those things that have continued to go through the several years, I mean, before independence, after independence, even pre-independence? What are those things, would you say, that have continued to go through and seem to be a major recurring decimal?
Let me pick one, for example. The concept of leadership in our environment makes a leader superior to the people he or she is leading. That's a big problem. See, worldwide now, it's recognized that the purpose, the essence of leadership is service. So, when you take our old monarchical structure, the king is superior to the subjects. We're trying to build a democracy on that foundation. It can't work. So, just before the last elections, I was asking people in the church where I pastor. I said, why is there so much tension because we want to elect our servants?
You felt the tension to the church. I thought it was only in the media.
Oh, it was everywhere. It was palpable. I said, what's the big deal since we want to elect people to serve us? Because that's my understanding of leadership. So what it does, when you have this old equation that we have, the leader is served. So the leader does not see himself or herself as serving anybody. So you find out most of our resources go into servicing the people who occupy leadership positions, and the very people who need the resources get very little of it. That's why there isn't much change around. I said, I illustrate to people, if I stand here, you stand behind me, and we stay there for 6 hours. And then someone asks me, what are you doing? And I say, I'm leading him. Would that be a correct statement? It wouldn't be. We were staying there 6 hours, no motion. I said the more accurate description would be, I am obstructing his progress. If there's no movement, if there's no improvement, there's no leadership. If you say you are my leader, my life is not changing, yours is not changing, maybe, there's no improvement. So the focus needs to come on Nigerians. And Nigerians need to know that we're not supposed to be begging for what belongs to us to be appropriated for us. So it's that turnaround that we need. And candidly, it's not only people in government that practice that concept of leadership or being superior. Again, it starts from our homes. It's in our offices.
You know what I get from all of this? Now, I think we're getting somewhere for us to break out of that culture. You're talking about this traditional leadership environment that you have always thought that that is what leadership should be about, to a leadership system that you can call shared leadership, a collaborative leadership.
That's
so
right.
It doesn't really matter if the man behind me is the one who finally gives maybe a suggestion or any kind of idea that will make the man ahead of us move. He becomes a leader. So how do we start building people that at the end of the day will now have an environment of shared leadership?
Well, I just remembered I had this story about someone in this country who was sent to the United States on training on how to recognize counterfeit currency. And he was expecting that when they got to the training, he would see a lot of counterfeit currency from different countries. And then he said they presented none. What they had all through were original currencies and all the features. And when he asked, where are the counterfeit currencies? They said, you don't need to see them. The more you recognize the original, the easier it is for you to spot the fake. We need mass education on leadership. Because if I say, what's your definition of leadership? The second question would be, where did you get that definition of leadership from? Where did the average Nigerian get their definition of leadership from? I ask, were you taught in school? Was it in your curriculum? How many books have you read on leadership? So we need to put leadership in the curriculum. Well, when it comes to education, I always advocate. There's formal education, there's the informal one. The informal one gives you a shortcut. Like our discussion now, we can leverage on the media. We can leverage on the social media. But more importantly, it needs to go into our curriculum. I'm trying to find, there may be some universities in Nigeria now where leadership is offered at degree level. I'm not aware of it yet. I'm still trying to search. But I have taken leadership courses outside Nigeria up to master's degree. I'm running a doctoral program now in leadership. We don't even have a first degree yet. Yet, this issue is a big issue for us.
That goes beyond getting skilled in an informal way to a more formal way.
Yes, and the point is, if we get the formal, it will help the informal. Whatever course you studied, somewhere along the line, you need to take training in leadership, because when you start out, whether as a lawyer or accountant or doctor, your technical skills will help you to succeed up to a particular level. But once they make you a supervisor or manager, or you get into executive grade, your success will depend more on people's skills than on your technical skills. Good, you're a doctor, but now you supervise 20 doctors and 50 nurses.